Hey guys, Scott here. Today I want to talk about John Ghoul and how I think there is a major issue that is going to happen with the release and the perception of the killer that I'm already worried about. Like, in terms of the killer itself, I think the killer is fantastic. It is the most fun killer I've ever played in the entire game. I don't know how many times you've seen people ask, what's your ideal killer in this game? And I always say, something with a grappling hook, something with a grappling hook, something with a grappling hook, something with a grappling hook. They added it, and what do you know? It's the most fun thing in the game. So I do think we're going to have a couple of issues with the killer that aren't even really related to the killer. For one, we're going to have Wesker syndrome, where the killer is going to be hated by the community, not because that the killer is unfun or badly designed, but because that's all people are going to go against. It's just going to be only this killer for like 3 weeks straight. And yeah, that's going to make people sort of brew a level of animosity towards him, which, I mean, that one is a bit less of a concern because it's literally suffering from success. The killer is so fun that that's all anyone wants to play. And so, yeah, as Survivor, you better get comfortable with going against them because you are going to see them, again, every other game. It's going to be a little tiring after a while. It'll eventually even out, just like Wesker eventually evened out. But yeah, this is going to be, you know, Ken by daylight for quite some time, and I do think that's going to brew some animosity in the community towards their opinions of him. But that's not even really about the killer. That's just more about the lack of variety. So there's a couple of things I would change about this killer. I don't really want to go into them too much until everyone has a chance to play him. Not everyone gets to play on the PTB console and stuff like that, so just off the top of my head, I think his grab attack is too long range. I think it's too easy to hit. Just shit like that. There's a couple little things that I think are a little overtuned, and I would love to see toned down. Very slight amount, but I do think the cooldown is good. The, recovery from using the power to cut people off is good. I think most things about him are really well done, and so he just needs a couple of minor changes, in my opinion. But again, I don't even want to talk about that. The biggest problem I find with this killer is a particular play style that people are going to adopt. And when I look at killers in the PTB, in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, what is the lowest effort way to get the most results with this killer? Because that is what the majority of the player base is going to do. You're not going to have people dedicating their lives to hitting sick, triple rebound, psycho, hug, blah, blah, blah techs on this killer. No, they're just going to find the path of least resistance, do what makes them win, and choose that. So whenever I analyze a killer on the PTB, I'm always thinking of that. I'm always thinking of what is the overall player base going to adopt as their most common strategy for this killer. And for this killer, the most common and easy strategy I have found, and I used it, is not super fun. It's actually pretty boring to go against. And the strategy basically involves brute forcing down loops and then just catching up in between the next loop and cutting them off. So for example, there's a loop right here, right? You're right here. The survivor immediately drops the pallet. You kick the pallet instead of trying to outplay the pallet. You don't use your power to whip around it. You don't do anything fancy or exciting. You just brute force the pallet down. Survivor starts running away. You grip onto something. You get ahead of them and you cut them off. Now, the only option the survivor has is to go back into the dead zone you just created, and thus they have nothing to use and then they just die. Now, this can be circumvented a little bit if like a tile has like a window or something because, you can't break a window or anything like that. However, if you slap on Bamboozle, as I was testing, well, now that option's gone too. So you block the window and you break the pallet and cut them off. There is pretty much nothing that they can do in that scenario. And I gotta say, it doesn't really feel that great as Survivor. The main problem with this cut-off brute forcing strategy is I have no idea how to fix it. Because if you make the recovery too much longer or you're at a cooldown, it will make everything else about the killer feel much worse when it doesn't have to because he feels kind of perfect. Like doing shit like that and cutting people off at windows, that feels so good. And you don't want to make that feeling worse or the fun and enjoyment of playing the killer is going to go away. But at the same time, just sort of being able to slap on brutal strength or fire up or whatever and just brute forcing pallets down and then just cutting people off is a very low IQ, simple strategy that is extremely effective. Even against really, really good players, it's still very effective. You slap on Bamboozle or some anti-window perk, crowd control, whatever, on top of that, and you kind of just make people have no real options anymore. And it does not feel great to go against that. I can just already see that that's what's going to happen. I'm going to try doing, the silly shit, flying around TO walls and try to cut people off the windows because That's where the fun of the killer is. That's what people want to see. That's what people want to watch. People don't want to just watch a brute force, you know, just cut off thing. And don't get me wrong, sometimes you do have to do that. Sometimes it's a palette that simply can't be outplayed. It's a very short loop or something where you just don't have enough time to whip around it. And, you know, there are going to be times, even when a wholesome person playing this killer is going to have to just brute force a palette down and, you know, try to catch up as quickly as they can. So that's going to happen, but I just don't want to see I don't want that to be the primary method of how this killer is played. But again, you have to look at what the path of least resistance is and what the community is going to adopt as the easiest playstyle. Do they want to learn the exact precise billiards, triple ricochet movements off of stuff? No, they're just going to break pallet and catch up instantly and then, you know, cancel it and down them. And that's going to be a shame because, again, I'm going to find a killer that I really, really enjoy that people are playing the most boring way possible with that ruins the reputation of the killer. And now I feel guilty for playing the killer, even though I'm not even, like, trying to do that. So that is my biggest fear with the killer. The reputation of that particular playstyle is going to put him sort of in the trash in terms of the outward appearance of how he's played. Now, I know a lot of people have the mindset of, oh, who fucking cares? You find him fun, just play it. Do that. Don't do that. Who cares? And that's fine. You know, you don't have to care about other people's fun. That's fine. I do. I try to worry about other people's fun as well. Again, not a detriment to my own. My own fun is more important than their fun. But if I'm doing overwhelmingly well or something like that, I will tone my, you know, level of trying to win down to sort of match what's happening in the match. A lot of people tend to just go overkill, overkill, overkill. Oh shit, I just 4K'd 5 gens. Whoops. Like, and I understand why people do that because you don't know what you're going against, and it's kind of a hard skill to learn to be able to adapt to what you're going against mid-match, and you can't expect everyone to do that. So what they typically do is just try their hardest every time because you might actually go against a team where you do need to try hard. So it's completely understandable. Again, side tangent. That's my biggest fear. It's not even really about the killer itself. It's about a particular playstyle that the killer can use. And again, I don't really know the correct way to fix that because I don't want them to touch anything else about how good he feels to play. But at the same time, I would love to see that play style not removed, but de-incentivized a little bit, or maybe make his anti-loop, you know, whipping around loops and cutting people off before they get to a powder window, maybe make that more incentivized or something. I don't know. But again, when you look at these killers, you have to think about the path of least resistance. That is what people are going to gravitate towards. Fire up brutal strength. Don't even loop anything. Don't play, just kick pallet immediately and cut off before they get to something else and force them back into the dead zone you just created. That's going to be, unfortunately, the main easy strat. And I feel like that's such a shame. That's such a disservice to the killer because he's such a cool design. His anti-loop is so unique. And yeah, I'm just not looking forward to the reputation that he gets from that. But that's it. Curious to hear if you guys have any opinions about fixing that because I would love to have something that makes him not feel worse to play but does address that. But other than that, I don't really get it, I think. So